This week we'll dip back into the watercolor set and, well, do this week's paintings have a theme? I think I was probably dreaming of cooler weather because I did 3 paintings and they all have a bit of an autumn feel to them. I'm only going to post 2 for now. The third one, let's say I have a healthy dissatisfaction for, and I wanted to see if I could do something with it. Welcome everyone, I am Brian, aka Baru, happily creating art and creative thingies and sharing it with the world along with some observations, helpful tips, and plenty of non sequiturs. Today, 2 pieces of art, tips on how to transform a spot into a flock of birds, and the unveiling of the Lloyd Cicadobler sticker. So getting into the first piece, it's, maybe a countryside scene, which I guess is a little bit unusual for me. But what's typical is starting with the background, the sky in this case. If you saw last week's video, I'm going to do something similar, lay down some base colors wet, and I'll take up some of that with a paper towel to make some clouds, and I'll let that dry. And I'll layer on additional colors to tie everything together. Something you could do, especially with these light washes, is to paint over other areas. So although I'm working on the sky, sometimes I find it helpful to also paint over the tree, as you can see I did there, or in the grass in the background. And this does 2 things. It helps to eliminate blank areas that you can get if you are working, very fine lines right up to one another. But another thing is that it helps to tie colors together. And this has science behind it. Any object that you will put out in an environment is going to be influenced by the ambient light. You can have a white piece of paper and you can bring it into a room with blue lighting and that paper will look blue. Obviously, the amount of color change will depend on the situation. But if you're mindful of it, even very subtle additions of colors in the right places can lend that je ne sais quoi, my French. Like, you may not notice it consciously, but you will get that, oh, that just feels right sort of thing. Now on this piece, I think I went a little bit too far on the sky. It's not bad, but I think I overworked it and I started getting sort of muddied up colors. And this is a risk when you are mixing warm and cool colors, and it tends to bring the colors closer to gray. So if I were to do this again, I think I would have gone lighter with I think it was geranium, which is a really nice semi-transparent red. But especially near the top of the page, I think a cleaner blue and wider clouds would have elevated this quite a bit. For some reason, I had this image in my head of a tree in autumn, mostly yellow, and that's what prompted this painting sketch. I've been burning up the past couple weeks outside, and I think I've been longing for those early fall days, where the colors are just starting to turn. The summer craziness is slowing down. It's warm, but it's not hot. You know the days I'm talking about, right? I'm certain that I'm not the only one who just loves autumn. And I really look forward to those days. And it just seems to be taking a long time this summer. In this style of painting, I usually highlight things with an ink pen. Really whatever I have on hand. This time I opted for a 0.1mm nib, so pretty light. And I think I did parts of the tree in a heavier line, I think with a medium fude nib, just to be a little bit more punchy with our tree protagonist. Sometimes when you make a piece of art, the universe gives you a hint, and I try to listen. I had this strange little dot that was bothering me. Actually, there's a second dot on the other side. And this is often how compositions will change for me. I see a dot and I think, should I just leave it? But I decided to make it into a flock of birds. I didn't do a great job on these avian friends, but it was never going to be a masterpiece anyway. Actually, the flock of birds was a great hint that the universe gave me, and I kind of wish that the second dot were closer to the farmhouse down by the horizon, and that line swooping down from the top left to the farmhouse would have been really, really good. Little tiny birds near the horizon, that would have added so much depth to this. Ah well, if I ever do a more finished painting of this, maybe I'll do that. Where I live, we have lots and lots and lots of bats, and when they come out in the evening, they kind of look like a cloud of smoke in the distance, millions of them. Maybe in this painting, one of those bats could be coming out towards the observer and you could see his face, and boy, just add a lot of personality to this painting. But I didn't think of that ahead of time. But you know what? I kind of still like this drawing, and what it might lack in personality, I think is going to be made up in painting numero dos. A dear, dear friend of mine lost her cat the other week, which is very sad. Finnegan, also known as Bokky, a black void of a cat with a lot of personality. Sweet, sweet cat, but also a bit mischievous. Definitely had at times the call of the wild. Anyway, Bokky's person told me that this drawing from 2014, an older one, reminded her of him. I really wanted to do something a bit special with this as a bit of a tribute. And I don't think I was trying to say anything in particular with this painting, but I do think that this specialness definitely came through. Sometimes drawings and paintings just come together in a way that feels right. And for the most part, this one did that for me. I really wanted to play up the sort of spooky fantasy look, in part because we would refer to Finn as a vampire bat, kind of a sleek panther of a cat with these kind of silly fangs. Man. You know what's sad and a bit mystifying to me, though? Black cats, and black dogs too, are the most passed over at shelters. By quite a large margin, too. Bokky was not a shelter cat. He was out in the wild, but had he been in a shelter, he would have been picked up long after the tabbies and the Persian blues had all found homes. It's just interesting. I love tabbies, Persians, and all of them. No shade at that at all. But to me, really, it's all about personality. My sister had a cat that lived with us for a while, and his name was Newtonian Physics. Newton for short. And Newty was, well, he was a lot like a dog. He would play fetch, and he liked being with people. And my sister thought that, in fact, that he was deaf as a kitten. And no, it just turns out he has very selective hearing. Oh, Newton eventually killed my ficus plant. Why? I do not know, but I will tell you that felid urine will kill a plant in no time flat. Oh man, I've always been more of a dog person. I never much cared to have a cat before Newton, but he changed my mind, even though I'm fairly allergic to them. Later on, I had a roommate that had a cat that was named Edgar, very appropriately named after Edgar Allan Poe. This cat was great too, but he definitely had his unpredictable streak. He would stare at you when you were sleeping, and you'd wake up and you would think, he's going to eat my face. And then he'd let you pet him for about 0.7 seconds, and then the fangs and the claws came out, and you'd leave the scene like you'd just run through a patch of briars. My roommate, oh my god, his arms were full of scratches and scars and all that. But you know what? Edgar was a steady friend for many, many years. Saw my roommate through some really tough times. And you know how sometimes we can feel like we are alone and unwanted, in our darker moments. And Edgar, from one point of view, why would you want a cat that would tear your flesh open? And maybe that's codependence. I don't know. But I can say I liked Edgar a lot. And my roommate a lot. And some things, they just fit, Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, I know. But it's a good tangent, right? Yeah. So I'll interrupt this very important tangent to talk about art for a moment. An art tangent off of a cat tangent off of a piece of cat art. I recently bought a tube of Davies Gray watercolor paint, specifically because I knew I would be painting this stone right here, but also because I'm doing more architecture and stuff like that these days. Davies Gray is really earthy. It was originally made with slate, and it is perfect for stones and concrete. And I've been using Payne's Gray exclusively for grays, and that just wasn't working out. That's what was used for Bokky's fur there. I'm going to get it darker, but you can kind of see the contrast there, with a different feel between those two grays. I'm really selective about the colors that I add to my palette. It forces me not to go crazy with colors that may not work well with each other. I'd much rather just create a whole separate palette for different types of use. But I've been pretty good about keeping one tin that does most of the things that I want it to do. So, welcome, Davies Gray. Enjoy a little slot in my watercolor tin. Compositionally for this piece, I did take a hint from the previous painting where I had wanted to have that flock of birds leading back to that farmhouse. I decided I was going to let the stepping stones do that here. This little element ties the house with the cat visually. I also did similar type trees as the last time, heavy on the yellows and oranges for that autumn feel. And so in some ways they're kind of similar. So I'm going to choose not to define any symbolism on this piece. It's pretty nebulous to me anyway. It's more of a feeling kind of thing, and I wouldn't be able to word it right if I tried. But there are lots of elements in here that you could assign symbolism to, and if it means something to you, that's more important, There's certainly something going on with the eyes in this, and I'd love to hear what you think or what it means to you. I'm not sure I have a good explanation for what it means to me in this piece, but it's there, and it at the very least is kind of interesting to look at. That last little wash of orange over the grass, I'm so glad that worked. I think that adds a little touch of autumn. Why this nice grass is easily coexisting with cacti, I really don't know, but it works for me, so there. I really like how this turned out. There are lots of things to see and to be curious about. This is page 3 of a children's fantasy book about a wise vampire bat cat, only slightly judging the rest of us normal human types. Oh, sweet, sweet cat, that Bokky. We'll miss you. Well, guess what, guys? I got my stickers. I'm going to open this up. I am Really excited. I did this all online, and oh geez, this is really I submitted these online, and I didn't get like a proof or anything, and they had a good sale going on, and hopefully these stickers will look fantastic. Oh, they even gave me a free one. All right. These are actually a little bit smaller than I was imagining, although they did say 3 inches, so that's, I guess, how big 3 inches is. Aw, look at that. Lloyd Cicadobler. I actually like that. That looks pretty nice. You know, it's got a... It reads pretty well at this size, and it's not so huge that it wouldn't look good on a sketchbook or something. Let's see. Yeah. Kind of perfect. Okay. Really excited to share these with you. If you want one of these, check the description of this video, and I will give you instructions on how to get one. And thank you so much for following this channel and for commenting and liking my videos. I really, really appreciate it, and I want to return that appreciation. So let me get you one of these stickers. Thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you next week with another video. Bye-bye.